Look, I'm going to get my biggest complaint out of the way right up top. How do you not save Deborah Jo Root for your 70s show, man? Come on. Welcome to The Watcher, where we just watched episode 3 of WandaVision, which is now in colour. Wow, what a claim that is. I love that. It reminded me of like that cheesy 60s Spider-Man cartoon where they're so proud it's in colour, which is just adorable now, isn't it? So, yeah, how about we mention that first of all? The title of the episode, which is now in colour. Last week, we didn't have titles for these episodes, and then halfway through the week, Disney were like, oh no, these are the name of the episodes. So the first episode was called Film Before a Live Studio Audience. The second episode was called Don't Touch That Dial. And when I clicked into this episode, it was actually just still called episode 3, but by the time I clicked out of it, they changed it to Now in Colour. An appropriate title, because this, of course, is our first episode completely in colour. Right off the bat, just to give my general thoughts on the episode, I thought this was probably the best episode of the 3 so far. Certainly, there's a lot more intriguing stuff here than there was in previous episodes that we'll dive into right away. So, first of all, it's still shot in 4:3, makes perfect sense. We're still watching something that's meant to emulate old television. The titles are very Brady Bunch-esque. You can see them behind me. Very interesting of note as well is that the hexagon shape, or hexagonal shape, if you want to be technical, I guess, is of course reminiscent of a beehive. Last episode we had the emergence of a beekeeper coming from the sewers, which caused Wanda to sort of freak out and just nope out of there. There was also a hexagon in the first episode of the credits, so there's definitely teasing a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of, I don't want to say that George Lucas line.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme, hopefully it'll work.
But there's a lot of that stuff going on throughout the show. As for who that beekeeper is, we still don't know. He had a sword logo on his back. Some people are saying that he's Swarm, who's a Spider-Man villain who's made of bees. Look, I just want to make a direct comment to the internet. First of all, big fan internet, okay? Not everybody is going to be someone, okay? Because there's the point where some of these are going to be misdirects. Some of them is just everyone is pointing to every person in the background. They're like, oh, well, this could be this character. Oh. Some of them are just going to be people, okay? We can't. Not everybody is going to be the big bad of the season. Let's get that out of the way now. Aside from that, let's just give a shout out first of all to how amazing the costuming and hair in this show is. I mean, it's amazing. It's just it must be such a fun show to work on as a makeup department or costuming department because they just got to mess with all these styles. Also, I mean, Paul Bettany's hair is glorious in this. I wish we had more of that. But regardless, I mean, it was a fantastic looking episode. We have a fun shot there of Vision and Scarlet Witch kind of back to back getting ready to use magic, which of course is a lot of fun. What else can we say? We have a few kind of things here with our neighbors that we need to dive into. The plot of the episode was basically the whole thing was Wanda's pregnant. Obviously, she's pregnant very, very quickly, and she gives birth very, very quickly. I thought the pregnancy thing might be stretched out for a little bit. Nope. This episode is where she's pregnant, where she has kids, and all that jazz. I don't know if this was also, this is not a Marvel reference. I don't know if this was just a kind of a classic sitcom reference where a lot of sitcoms, when an actress gets pregnant, they kind of have them carry things to hide that they're pregnant. So, believe it or not, if you looked up some of the shows you were watching, you probably wouldn't even realize that the person was pregnant. But a lot of times they just carry things. We had a lot of that this time, and it was anytime it was used, it was to hide that Wanda was pregnant, and it worked. So I guess that might have been a throwback to old sitcoms, which of course this show is covered in. Really, we don't need to cover much in the episode. Again, what I actually like about WandaVision so far is that they're giving us these classic sitcom episodes that stand alone as themselves. If you just watch this as a sitcom, it would feel like an old sitcom. Obviously, nobody is doing that. We're diving into this with a full understanding of the Marvel Universe and the characters and all that. But they do really work as standalone sitcom episodes. In fact, that's something that's really surprised me throughout this whole show is how kind of earnest it was. If you like, I don't know what you like. If you didn't watch the Marvel shows and you just read like, I'm going to throw on WandaVision and see what all the fuss is about, you'd be like, why is everyone going crazy for these old weird sitcom kind of anthology series? I guess, but of course, I'm kind of surprised there has been less winking to the audience. But that's why it's even funner to dig into this whole mystery we got going on. Aside from that, I probably should talk about her having the kids. Elizabeth Olsen has herself a couple of Olsen twins. Hey. very famous twins of Scarlet Witch, which become Wiccan and Speed. In case you're wondering, that's Billy and Tommy, who are named in this episode. The one that came out first was Tommy, because he's faster, he's Speed. The other one is Wiccan. As far as where this goes from here, are the kids going to be prevalent in the rest of the episodes? You would assume so. What's interesting is I don't want to go too much into trailers and ruin anything for myself. There is moments where they have babies in the next episode. I believe it was in the 80s. Are they going to be aged up? Well, a lot of people are assuming that by the end of the show, we're going to have basically two grown-up young Avengers. Not grown-up, but, at an age where they can be characters in the MCU going forward. So, very simply, Speed is basically Quicksilver. He has the powers of Quicksilver, essentially. And Wiccan basically has the powers of Wanda. Okay, so it's like basically those twins again. And are they going to become young Avengers down the line in the MCU? Are they going to factor in more here into the show? That's very, very hard to call right now. But then again, we've got 6 more episodes to come, so it's plenty of time. I guess we should talk about what everyone's going to be talking about probably from this episode, which is Geraldine, Tiona Paris's character, who we mentioned last week is called Geraldine. I had speculated in the last one where I said that maybe there is a chance that she could be kind of here by accident, and I don't think I was right about that, but I do kind of still wonder, because they did really play up the fact that she's kind of maybe not meant to be there, and I think that's kind of there for a few other reasons that we'll get to now in a sec. Now, number one, we should mention the scene where, this is just after it, the picture behind me, where basically Wanda gets a moment where she kind of snaps into reality, and it's not her that snaps her into that reality. It is that character Geraldine of Monica Rambeau, which is the character's real name. But again, if you don't know that for the marketing, I don't know. It's fine. We'll just call her Geraldine for now. We pretend we don't know who she is or who she becomes. So she has a moment where Wanda actually, and this is a very interesting scene as well. It's quite a sad scene because we haven't really got any mention of Quicksilver, her brother, since Age of Ultron, and in a moment that really makes any MCU fan want to just kind of sit up in their seat, she says that she was a twin, and we remember that, of course, that's not something that she really ever connects with. She's kind of, interestingly enough, Wanda sort of moved past her twin and never really discussed them, and even moved on from her Sokovian kind of ancestry, where her accent is pretty much gone in her next appearance, but it starts coming back here, which is a nice way to explore it. So she sings a sort of Sokovian, Sokovian. There we go. Third time was the charm there. She sings a lullaby to them, and in that moment she mentioned that she was a twin, and Geraldine says,
"He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he?"
I will eat your babies, bitch!
Maybe don't bring that up out of nowhere. Jesus Christ, Geraldine. Yeah, I mean, this scene took a very sinister and intense tone once that happened. And the big thing, obviously, now is that Geraldine is obviously in the modern day, or aware of the modern day. As we kind of see throughout this episode, she's not the only one that's aware of what might be going on here. But regardless, we get a lot of focus as well on the pendant she was wearing. That's the sword logo. We talked about that last week. It was on the helicopter we saw. It was on one of the monitors in the first episode. And it's also on the back of the beekeeper who we saw. And in that moment, Wanda basically seemingly rejects, I guess, real reality. Certainly is very upset about the whole thing, and yanks the Geraldine character out of this presumably fictional world again. And that's how our episode sort of ends, with her pushed out of this force field around this neighborhood of Westview. Now, the other thing we have to kind of ask here is, there's a couple of things. There was a Westview sign outside of this kind of force field bubble. I talked about last week that in one of the trailers we saw a helicopter entering this kind of force field. So that could be a kind of thing of how Monica Rambeau got into this world. We don't know. As we said, the pendant focusing on the sword logo is also there. That's very clearly showing, presumably, that she is a sword agent. And she just got removed from this simulation or fantasy that's somewhat contained in this neighborhood of Westview. Is Westview a real place? Or is it sort of a illusion to keep the general public out while Sword monitors the situation with Wanda? We don't entirely know that yet. But what we do know is at the very end of the episode, our episode ends with a very intriguing kind of cliffhanger that Geraldine is removed from this simulation and she's swarmed by helicopters and jeeps. Now, the big thing after this that we sort of have to ask is what's going on with everyone else in the town? I kind of speculate originally that all these people might be agents of S.W.O.R.D. I don't know if that's the case seeing this. Throughout the episode, we get a few kind of talks to the neighbors who are very kind of seemingly like they're trapped, they're stuck, they're concerned and scared, quite frankly. Because, of course, throughout this episode, Wanda's powers kind of go a little bit haywire as she's going through pregnancy, which would be quite scary. Remember, she did try to choke a doctor last week, which was far from ideal. So the big question we have is, what's going on with these other people? Are they aware that they're in Wanda's fantasy or illusion or Wanda's alternate reality? I guess we don't really know. The Doctor has a very interesting line. He's meant to be going on holiday, and he says,
"Small towns, so hard to escape."
They're basically seemingly trapped in this reality, forced to carry on with Wanda's delusions, probably. There's a moment where Herb, who is our next door neighbor, who was in the last episode as well, is talking to Agnes. This is her only appearance in this episode. She was not as pivotal to this episode as I thought she would. I kind of thought she would be popping in almost every episode as that kind of wacky neighbor. The only scene we get in this was where she's talking to Herb and Vision confronts her. Very uneasy scene. They're seemingly discussing something and very kind of perturbed that Vision is there. What is very interesting is they're looking as well for character Geraldine. They're like, is she inside? Maybe they're all aware that she is a S.W.O.R.D. agent and that she's kind of, I guess this is Tom's theories. Wah, wah, wah. And they nearly forgot the Goldfinger theme again. Maybe they're all basically using her as like they know that if they're with her, she's safe, that she might have a better idea of getting up, knowing what's going on, and etc. And Herb was going to say something. He says,
She came here because we're all what?
We're all trapped. I don't know. That could be possibly a thing. We were really have a few other telling lines in this. One of the things this is the sign of Westview, which the slogan of the town is "Home is where you make it." So Wanda's presumably made this town. Har 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 har. When they're going through names, Vision is talking about his son Billy, who he says he would name for William Shakespeare, and he says, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players." Giving that idea that there is sort of a performance going on here. So I don't know. My theories have sort of changed this week. There's just a few minor Easter eggs. I've heard a few people say. Some people have suggested that the brooch that Catherine Hahn's character is wearing, Agnes, has the Grim Reaper on it. It certainly looks like a side. I couldn't really make it out from having looked, but who knows? Does she have some relation to Grim Reaper? Again, there was a Grim Reaper reference in the animated credits of the second episode. Again, is Grim Reaper going to factor in here? I'm not sure. There's another thing as well. There was a behind the scenes video during the week where it looked like Simon Williams' Wonder Man concept art was in the background. Wonder Man is a character that was put in suspended animation. When Ultron makes Vision in the comics, he steals Wonder Man's brain signals as a model for Vision. And later on, Grim Reaper is Wonder Man's brother and basically becomes an enemy of Vision. So, is Grim Reaper going to factor into this? Possibly, I don't know. I think if the big reveal was that it was Grim Reaper as the big bad, people would be very disappointed. I think everyone's on board the Satan train. I think it could just be a cute reference, a throw reference. It could be a minor villain later on in the season. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, Wonder Man isn't in the MCU yet, and I also think it's kind of weird. Like, it would seem really a stupid and obvious mistake to have Wonder Man concept art in the background when you're being interviewed. Like, oh, don't talk to David Fincher on the set of Fight Club. Oh, because in the background, what does it say? Oh, Tyler Durden is the narrator. What? Like, sure, that's amateur stuff, surely. I think Marvel is above that, personally. Other allusions to Satan actually was one of the ads last week that I didn't catch, but I saw pointed out recently, was that there's kind of swirls on the side of the Stark toaster, and if you turn it upside down, it looks like 666. I don't know. Other people were saying that Agnes's husband, or no, it was the cat, was called Senor Scratch, which means Mr. Scratch, and Old Scratch is a nickname for the devil. Again, this is what part of the fun of this is whether people are overanalyzing or whether Marvel's really that clever in putting all these little references in. Some as red herrings, of course, as well. We should probably talk about the other ad though: the Hydra Soak soap, bath powder. Now, let's think about that. Last week I suggested that the ads were kind of showing her trauma. A lot of people have that same kind of idea. And now there's other people pointing to this one as a few ways. I mean, the obvious one to allude to is, hey, brainwashing. Or Wanda was brainwashed and experimented on, and that allowed her to release the goddess within. Now, that's where she got her powers from Hydra, from being experimented on. The big thing that some people are pointing out, though, and I don't know, it could be a just total happenstance, is that in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I haven't seen this, I'm not up to date on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as I don't think a lot of people would be necessarily.
Would have figured it out a long time ago if it wasn't for the mind control soap. That blue soap everyone uses? Hydra loads it up with chemicals. It seeps into our bloodstream, implants false memories.
Why don't we put the soap theories on hold just for 1 second? Okay.
Certainly, these ads are very, very intriguing, and I've seen that Marvel have been putting out the ads separately for people to kind of analyze and have fun with. But regardless, that was the Hydra soap ad. I'm trying to think now. Is there much else I can really say about this episode of WandaVision? It's one of those ones again where you're left with more questions than answers. Certainly this time, though, those it seems like we're getting some degree of answers. Last week I kind of speculated that Agnes could be Mephisto. Certainly, I think there is a Satan connection. Could it be that her husband is Mephisto? There was a line here where she said that he looks better in the dark. She called him Ralph. I don't know. I don't think Ralph was the name of the devil or anything. But I mean, would be a really letdown, wouldn't it? Oh,
It's Satan. Yes, call me.
Ralph. Come on. But yeah, he looks better in the dark. Certainly, there's a lot of illusion that maybe Satan could be in play in some regard. Whether or not that's, I don't think it's. I think the more we go into this, it's probably like Agnes could actually be Agatha Harkness, and her husband could be Satan. Some people I saw suggest that because there's apparently, according to Paul Bettany, and this isn't a spoiler, I guess, he said that there's a big name actor people are surprised is going to be in this. Could that be a reveal of Mephisto? I saw someone even speculating that it could be Al Pacino based on a quote from a long time ago. I guess Tom's Theories again. At this point, I'm sort of thinking Tom's Theories is basically a segment where it's just like, hey, what was Tom wrong about before? Let's get him. It's hard to tell because it looks kind of like maybe Wanda made a deal with the devil to live in this reality, and maybe it's possibly being contained by S.W.O.R.D., and that's what's going on. Wanda is definitely in control of this world. There's another moment where Vision sort of realizes that not everything is quite right, and she kind of just glitches him back in a very subtle way. Actually, it almost, if you were looking away, you think your TV might have skipped back. To basically, he's like, something's not quite right. Oh, let's forget that, and they go back into normal reality, or Wanda's reality, which is not normal reality. So that was a poor choice of words. It's still hard to tell. I think Wanda could have made a deal with the devil that she could have Vision back, and maybe even have some kids, which again would be leading to that comic book story where basically the devil's soul is what gave Wanda her kids, and losing them is what caused her to go insane. Are we going to see Wanda go full villain? Is the big question. I mean, there's a lot of allusion to her past, and I remember when she was introduced, she was a villain, essentially. Or at least she was against the Avengers. So, I don't know. A lot of intriguing questions ahead. What are your thoughts and theories on WandaVision? What the hell is going on here? Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know in the comments below. And make sure to come back for episode 4. Because remember, I'll be watching. See you on the next one. Before you go, why not give this video a like? And be sure to subscribe, because on Monday, I'll be dropping my preview of the year 2021. That includes all the MCU shows and the MCU movies that hopefully we're going to get in some form this year, and everything else. We cover over 100 things. It's massive. It's the biggest podcast I've ever done, and you can find it right here on YouTube. And remember, I can't spell cult without you.